Beloved chosen one, stop scrolling. Heaven has paused everything around you to speak. This is not coincidence, this is divine interruption. The breath you take right now was planned, aligned, and destined for this very moment. The world has whispered that you are average, forgotten, unseen. But you were never meant to blend in. You are not random. You are chosen. Every test, every tear, every closed door, it wasn't rejection. It was redirection. God wasn't punishing you, He was positioning you. The pain that broke you was actually heaven shaping you into someone unbreakable. And now, after the testing and the waiting, you are being summoned. Listen carefully, for heaven is calling your name. You've been tested and measured in secret. The angels have watched you fight battles no one saw. The demons that thought they could destroy you now tremble because you survived what was meant to end you. This is your confirmation the test is over. Now comes the choice. You have been called for something sacred. The time of wandering is finished. The gates of destiny are open before you. The Father is asking, whose voice will you follow? This is the moment where neutrality ends. You must choose your master not with your lips, but with your life. Do you feel it? Chosen one. That stirring in your chest is not anxiety, it's awakening. For too long, you've tried to please both the world and the Word. You've carried the weight of two kingdoms, torn between surrender and self. But now, the Spirit says, it's time. The test proved your endurance. Now obedience must reveal your allegiance. The tests were never about what you lost. They were about what you would choose when everything else was stripped away. Will you cling to bitterness or rise in forgiveness? Will you chase recognition or seek righteousness? The world will promise crowns that melt with time, but heaven offers a crown that never fades. When everyone misunderstood you, when your silence was mocked, your patience mistaken for weakness, heaven was hiding you, keeping your purity intact. You were being set apart. The testing ground was sacred. Heaven was watching how you handled pain, betrayal, and silence. Now you stand at the edge of something divine. Heaven has seen enough. The fire didn't destroy you, it forged you. The valley didn't drown you, it deepened you. The loneliness didn't break you, it taught you to hear the whisper of God. You, chosen one, are not forgotten. If you're hearing these words, your testing has served its purpose. You have been weighed and found faithful. Now heaven speaks. You have been tested now. Choose your master. As the Apostle Peter once wrote in the sacred text, it is written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. Do you understand what this means? You were handpicked from the foundation of the world. Before your first cry, your name was known in heaven's courts. You were marked for this hour to stand when others fall, to shine when others fade. This is not about religion, it's about rulership. You were not created to survive, you were created to reign. Lift your head, chosen one. You are no longer crawling through ashes, you are rising from them. The same hands that trembled in fear will now lift in victory. You have walked through the furnace and emerged clothed in fire. Now heaven says, take your place. Let the earth hear your yes. You are being called not just to believe, but to belong. For every delay and disappointment was divine choreography leading you here to the moment of decision. If your spirit bears witness, act now. Share this message if it speaks to you. Subscribe if you haven't, to stay connected to this divine voice. And in the comments below, type 777 as your declaration of alignment. Your testing was not the end, it was the proof. Rise, chosen one, and choose your master. The heavens lean close when you decide. Every choice is a ripple through eternity, echoing louder than words. This is not a season to drift, it's a season to declare. Let your spirit rise, for the King has seen your endurance and now calls you forward. Do not look back at what broke you. Every scar now testifies of survival. Every wound shines with wisdom. You are the evidence that God still redeems ashes into crowns. The very fire that burned others became your anointing oil. This is your awakening, chosen one. Heaven stands still, watching your heart align. The storm you endured was never punishment. It was preparation for your reign. You are crossing from testing to triumph, from hiding to holy visibility. Lift your voice now, not in fear but in faith. Declare your loyalty aloud. I choose the Master of Light. For when you speak it, heaven seals it. The realm of darkness will remember this moment. You belong to the throne of glory. You remember the weight of it all, the heaviness that clung to your chest when no one saw. The nights when your prayers felt like whispers into an empty room. You wondered if heaven had forgotten your name. You asked why the pain would not relent. Why every open door seemed to close just as you reached for it. But now, as your eyes open in the light of understanding, you realize those nights were never wasted. They were the proving ground of your spirit. Every storm that came against you carried a purpose. Every heartbreak was a mirror, revealing what still needed surrender. The silence you mistook for divine absence was actually divine observation. Heaven was watching not to punish you, but to measure the depth of your faith when it had nothing left to hold on to but hope. You see, chosen one, tests are not about destruction, they are about revelation. They reveal who you are when no one applauds, when the spotlight fades, when all that remains is your whispered still, I will trust you. God didn't need your perfection, He was after your endurance. For it is in endurance that your loyalty is proven. You have been in the furnace long enough to understand that comfort never produces growth. The ache in your soul was a sacred hammer, shaping your inner strength. The loss you endured stripped away false securities so that only truth could remain. You were not being broken down, you were being built differently. When people turned their backs, heaven was watching who you would become without their validation. When the blessing seemed delayed, the true blessing was being formed inside you, the ability to stand firm without proof. You are learning that faith doesn't flourish in the absence of pain, but in the midst of it. Every unanswered prayer, every unfulfilled dream, every delay, they were not denials. They were alignments. You were being refined so that when the answer finally came, you would have the character to sustain it. God wasn't saying no. He was saying, not yet, my child, not until you are ready to carry what I've prepared. Do you remember the loneliness that felt unbearable? That was not punishment, it was separation for transformation. The divine hand removed what was unstable so you could stand unshaken. Every betrayal, every goodbye, every season of confusion was sculpting wisdom inside your heart. You thought you were being emptied, but in truth, you were being made whole. There were moments when you asked, why me? But heaven looked down and whispered, because you can. The storms you faced were not random attacks, they were divine selections. God chose you to endure what others could not, because He knew what He placed inside you. He trusted you with trials as evidence of your strength. You may not have understood it then, but the pressure you felt was proof that you were carrying purpose. Diamonds are formed under weight, gold is purified by fire, and souls are sanctified through struggle. You were never weak. You were being refined into something incorruptible. And when you cried out, believing no one heard, heaven leaned in closer. Every tear was recorded, every sigh became intercession, every broken word reached the throne. Angels were dispatched, not to remove the storm, but to keep you standing inside it. Now, as you look back, you see it clearly. The moments that hurt the most were the very ones that strengthened your faith. You didn't lose your way. You found your roots. The darkness you feared became the classroom of divine endurance. Chosen one, your testing season was heaven's greatest compliment. God saw something in you worth refining. The crushing was not meant to destroy you, but to draw out the oil that was hidden inside your spirit. You had to lose what was temporary to receive what was eternal. And now, as you stand on the other side, something within you has changed. You no longer chase what once deceived you. You no longer panic when the storm rages. You no longer question your value based on the approval of man. You have been tested, and your heart has been proven pure. The Word of God declares in the letter of James, chapter 1, verse 3, "The testing of your faith produces perseverance," and it has. Perseverance has taken root within you like a living flame. You have become the kind of warrior who fights not with fear, but with faith that cannot be shaken. You are no longer defined by your trials. You are defined by how you rose through them. Your scars are sacred. They are not marks of defeat, but emblems of divine survival. Heaven saw every moment you chose to keep believing when it would have been easier to quit. You passed the test not because you were perfect, but because you refused to surrender your trust. So now, breathe deeply. Chosen one. The weight you once carried was not a curse, it was a calling. You were being forged for the days ahead, shaped by divine pressure into a vessel that can hold glory. The test has proven your heart ready for more. The storm revealed your true strength. You have endured, and heaven approves. There was a time when silence surrounded you so thickly that even your prayers felt like they vanished before reaching the sky. You thought God had stepped away, that perhaps your voice had grown too small for heaven to notice. But now you begin to understand He did not abandon you. He led you into the wilderness to make you hear what can only be heard in stillness. The wilderness was never punishment. It was protection. It was the sacred classroom where distractions were stripped away so that only the divine whisper could remain. The world was too loud, too filled with noise and opinions. And heaven knew you needed quiet to rediscover the sound of His voice. Chosen one. This silence was holy ground. When you had no audience but the wind, no witness but the night sky, that was when heaven began to speak. You see, God often hides His chosen in obscurity before revealing them in glory. You were hidden, not forgotten. You were isolated, not ignored. Every lonely night, every unanswered question, every moment of confusion, these were invitations to lean in closer, to tune your heart to frequencies that only the faithful can hear. The wilderness removes comfort so that clarity can come. You were never lost. You were being located by the Spirit. Remember how your plans failed, how every attempt to build your own way fell apart. That was heaven saying, not this road, not yet. For there are paths that lead to applause, but not to anointing. God was teaching you that success outside His presence is still failure in disguise. He allowed the silence to grow until your own thoughts exhausted you. When your strategies stopped working, your heart finally became still enough to listen. And in that stillness, you heard what the crowd could never hear, a voice not of thunder, but of truth, a whisper that said, "You are mine, you are chosen one." Understand, this revelation rarely comes in noise. The Creator of galaxies chooses to speak softly, for only those who seek will hear. The wilderness is where prophets are born, where destiny is downloaded, and where identities are rewritten. When everyone else rushed ahead, chasing recognition. You were held back by divine hands. You were being purified in silence. The wilderness taught you the rhythm of obedience, slow, steady, surrendered. It taught you that the absence of movement is not the absence of God. It is the presence of molding. The Spirit of God spoke through the prophet Hosea, chapter 2, verse 14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. Do you see it now? The wilderness was not a trap, it was a conversation. You were being wooed into divine intimacy, drawn away from the noise so that heaven could reveal secrets meant only for you. The voice that seemed distant was, in truth, whispering inches from your heart. You learned to recognize that whisper, the one that told you to forgive, to wait, to trust again, even when everything inside you screamed otherwise. It was in the quiet that your discernment sharpened, your faith deepened, your purpose clarified. You were being rebuilt in solitude so that when you step back into the world, your words will carry weight. And now, the wilderness season begins to lift. The whisper remains with you, a compass in the noise. You no longer fear silence, you welcome it. You know that if heaven is quiet, it is not because God is gone, it is because He is still shaping something holy inside you. You have been redefined by divine silence. The absence of answers has become the evidence of presence. You walk differently now, not with haste, but with harmony. You've learned that purpose doesn't shout, it breathes. It guides, it waits. So when you find yourself alone again, remember this truth: isolation is not exile, it is invitation. God still speaks to those who still themselves enough to listen. The wilderness made you ready not to beg for signs, but to trust His whisper. If your spirit bears witness to this moment, type "Still I listen." When you write those words, you're declaring that your silence is now sacred. You're proclaiming that even when heaven seems quiet, your heart remains open. Because the chosen do not fear stillness. They understand that God's whisper is enough to guide their destiny. When you type "Still I listen," you're not just commenting, you are testifying that your heart remains attentive to heaven's whisper. You declare that silence will no longer frighten you, for you've learned to hear God even there. Writing "Still I listen" is a prophetic act. It marks the end of your confusion and the beginning of spiritual clarity. It means you no longer chase noise, you choose the whisper, because that's where revelation lives. Each time you say "Still I listen," heaven records it as faith. You affirm that even without answers, you trust the unseen. You are not waiting in weakness, you are waiting in worship, ready for your next instruction. The air around you feels heavier now. Chosen one. You can sense it, the pull between two paths, the unseen tension between light and shadow. You have reached a fork in the spiritual road. Everything you've endured has led you to this point. Heaven watches in silence, not because it is indifferent, but because it is waiting for your decision. You stand in the sacred pause between the old you and the one heaven is calling forth. This is not a battle of chance, it is a battle of choice. Every soul must arrive here the moment where allegiance is defined. You cannot walk both paths forever. The Spirit of God has been whispering. Choose this day whom you will serve. For indecision is still a decision, and hesitation is the language of surrender to darkness. You can feel it inside you, the tug of two kingdoms. One calls softly, offering comfort, the familiar rhythms of the world's desire. The other burns quietly, inviting you into surrender, sacrifice, and sanctity. The world offers recognition. Heaven offers redemption. The difference is subtle but eternal. One feeds your ego, the other frees your soul. The narrow road has never been glamorous. It demands release, humility, and faith. It will cost you things you thought you needed, certain relationships, habits, and comforts, but it will also give you something priceless: peace. The wide road promises ease, yet always ends in emptiness. Its glitter blinds the unguarded heart. You may look around and see others prospering on that broad path, gaining praise and possessions, and wonder if you chose wrong by standing still. But remember, delay is not denial. Sometimes heaven slows your pace to keep your heart pure. The narrow road may feel lonely, but it leads to a crown that can never be taken away. This is the same moment Joshua faced when he stood before Israel, commanding them to choose their allegiance. His voice still echoes through the ages, and it calls to you now. Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. Those words, ancient and timeless, were not just for a nation, they are for you. For you cannot serve both kingdoms. One will always demand your devotion while the other slowly fades from your focus. If you follow the light, darkness will lose its grip, but if you keep your gaze on the world, the light will dim in your sight. Every thought you entertain is a step. Every compromise is a direction. The choices you make when no one is watching reveal the master you serve more clearly than any declaration you could ever speak aloud. Heaven measures not the loudness of your worship, but the alignment of your will. There are two thrones, one of self and one of the Savior. Both cannot reign in the same heart. You must decide which voice will govern your actions, which kingdom will claim your loyalty. The choice is sacred because it shapes eternity. Do not think of this as punishment, but as promotion. The very fact that heaven allows you to choose means you are trusted with authority. Angels obey, humans choose, and through that choice, your destiny unfolds. If you choose the path of light, understand that it will not always feel safe, but it will always be holy. You will be misunderstood by many, resisted by darkness, and sometimes even doubted by yourself. But every step taken in faith carves your name deeper into eternity. If you choose the world, the road may seem easier at first. The lights are brighter, the noise more familiar. But beneath that surface comfort lies a slow fading of the soul. What you gain in visibility, you lose in vitality. What you build with compromise cannot withstand the winds of testing. Chosen one, this moment demands stillness and clarity. You have walked through the testing, survived the silence, and emerged with wisdom. Now, the decision rests not on emotion but on revelation. You know too much truth to turn back. You have seen too much light to pretend blindness. The spirit within you already leans toward the throne of grace. That pull you feel is not fear, it's destiny. You are being invited to live beyond survival, beyond comfort, beyond compromise, to walk with purpose, to align not with fleeting pleasure, but with eternal power. The road of light may narrow, but it leads to expansion of soul. The road of darkness may widen, but it ends in constriction and loss. The choice has always been between temporary satisfaction and eternal significance. So stand still in this sacred intersection. Feel heaven's eyes upon you. You are no longer the tested, you are the deciding. And once you choose your master, heaven will move mountains to align with your obedience. For the throne you serve determines the future you inherit. And when your choice is made, the heavens will respond. The winds will shift, the atmosphere will change, and your path will light beneath your feet. For every true decision in faith awakens divine movement in unseen realms. You've begun to see the world differently now, haven't you? Chosen one. The illusions that once dazzled you have started to lose their color. The voices that promised you comfort now sound hollow. Because once you've tasted truth, Nothing counterfeit can satisfy. You are awakening to a deeper reality, the realm where light and deception are always at war for your loyalty. For the enemy rarely attacks you openly. He prefers disguise. He speaks in half-truths, wrapping lies in beauty so that they look like blessings. His voice imitates comfort, his path mimics peace, and his gifts sparkle only long enough to keep you distracted from the real treasure, divine purpose. You see, deception doesn't always look like danger. It often looks like opportunity. It sounds like safety. It feels like what your flesh wants most in the moment. But darkness is clever. It offers comfort to capture obedience. It says you deserve to rest, to indulge, to forget your calling for a while. But every compromise is a seed that grows into chains. The most dangerous enemy you'll face isn't the one that roars, it's the one that whispers, "God won't mind." Yet deep inside, your spirit always knows when the voice is false. You feel it like a shadow in sunlight, a subtle unease that warns, this isn't the way. Chosen one, heaven gave you discernment for this reason. You were never meant to walk blind in a world of illusions. The more you draw near to the true voice, the more you recognize the counterfeit. That inner stirring, that holy discomfort, that's the Spirit protecting you from deception. The Apostle Paul once warned the faithful, as recorded in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 14. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Let those words sink deep into you. They remind you that not every glow is glory, not every door is divine, and not every offer comes from the light. You must weigh each moment through prayer and peace. The enemy's promises shine only until obedience fades, but God's promises glow even in the dark. And so, the journey continues. You've walked through testing, endured silence, and now you are learning to discern the imitation from the authentic. It's not easy. Few things that refine the soul are, but each time you choose the true voice, heaven rejoices. Every right decision echoes like a bell in the spiritual realm, declaring this one belongs to the light. You are not walking this path alone. There are many like you, other chosen souls awakening in every corner of the earth, hearing the same whisper, feeling the same pull toward truth. Together, you form a hidden army of light bearers. This message you hear now isn't just sound, it's a thread weaving you into that global tapestry of faith. If these words have stirred something in you, if they've helped you breathe again, then touch the flame. Tap the heart, share the light. Let it travel where darkness still sleeps. Every like is a spark. Every share a torch passed forward. Subscribe if you haven't yet, not as routine, but as the act of keeping a lamp trimmed and ready. Each new message becomes fresh oil for your journey, a steady reminder that you are not walking this narrow road alone. And now, something sacred, softly spoken when you give. You are not paying for words, you are pouring oil into the lamp. You are saying, let this light keep burning for those still lost. To donate is to plant a seed in eternal soil. It is not obligation, but overflow, the overflow of gratitude that says, I was once in darkness, and now I want the flame to reach another. Your gift, no matter its size, is like a drop of oil added to the fire, helping it shine through another night. If your heart feels the gentle nudge to give, let it flow naturally. Think of it as releasing a river that waters unseen gardens. What you pour out returns as peace, multiplied in ways only heaven can measure. Chosen one, never forget you were deceived once, but now you discern. You were lost once, but now you lead. You were tested once, but now you testify. Every part of your journey has meaning. Every lesson has been preparation for the purpose unfolding now. So walk boldly in truth. Keep the flame alive. Share the light. Sow the seed, pour the oil, and when you give, do it with joy, because the light you help sustain may be the very one that guides another soul home. Every act of giving becomes a whisper of faith that heaven never ignores. You may never see the faces you touch on, but eternity will. What you release in love today becomes tomorrow's miracle for someone else's awakening. The flame you feed now will one day guide weary travelers home. Each offering, each share, each spark of compassion extends the reach of light. You are no longer just receiving, you are becoming the lantern that leads others to grace. You've walked through deception and stood against the counterfeit light. Now something begins to stir within you, a quiet realization that obedience is not a cage, but a crown. What once felt like surrender now feels like freedom. The chains that once restrained you have become reminders of what you've outgrown. Heaven is marking you. Chosen one, not with fame or gold, but with the seal of obedience. Obedience is not blind servitude. It is sacred alignment. It is the moment your heart says, "Even if I don't understand, I still trust." The world teaches rebellion as strength, but heaven calls surrender power. When you yield to divine direction, you are not losing control, you are handing the steering wheel back to the one who wrote your path long before you walked it. The storms that once frightened you now remind you of his authority. The fire that once threatened to consume you now refines you. You are learning that peace is not the absence of battle, it is the confidence of knowing who leads you through it. There was a time when your prayers were bargains, God. If you do this, I will follow. But now, your heart whispers differently, God. Even if you don't, I still will. That is the sound of transformation. That is the voice of one who has passed the test of trust. Chosen one, obedience is the language of heaven. Every time you obey, even in the smallest way, something shifts in the spirit realm. Angels move, darkness retreats. Blessings that were once delayed begin to find you. Obedience is not just an act, it is access. Think of it like a seal pressed into wax. When the king approves a message, he seals it to prove its authenticity. The same happens with your life. Every yes you whisper becomes an imprint of heaven upon your soul, a divine mark that says, "This one belongs to the light." It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 19. "If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land." Those words are not just ancient poetry, they are prophecy. They mean that when your will aligns with his, doors open that effort alone could never unlock. The favor you've been chasing begins to chase you. The peace you sought finally rests in your hands, not as a gift earned, but as a promise kept. Your obedience will not always be visible to others. Some will misunderstand it, call it foolish, even mock it. But what they cannot see is what happens behind the veil, the hidden rewards of surrender. God is not looking for perfect people, he is looking for obedient hearts. When he says wait, your stillness becomes strength. When he says go, your steps become lightning in the spirit. Obedience makes you unstoppable because it links your motion to divine momentum. The world can resist you, but it cannot overrule what heaven has commanded. Every act of obedience, no matter how small, becomes a seed of favor. When you forgive, even when you don't feel like it's seed. When you stay humble instead of retaliating, seed. When you pray instead of panicking, seed. And heaven multiplies what you plant in faith. You see, obedience is not about fear of punishment. It's about the joy of trust. It's about knowing that the one guiding you sees beyond your moment, into eternity. You obey not because you must, but because you've learned his way is better, his timing wiser, his hand safer. Chosen one, this is your moment of sealing. the tests, the wilderness, the discernment, they have all led you here. You are no longer running from instruction, you are running toward it. You've learned that every command carries a hidden blessing, and soon, the fruit of your surrender will appear in ways that silence every doubt. Now, as heaven watches and records your steps, mark this moment with a declaration of faith, not for anyone's approval, but as a spiritual signature of obedience. If this message resonates in your spirit, if you feel that quiet confirmation that God is sealing something new upon you, then comment 888 below. Why 888? Because it is the number of new beginnings and resurrection. It represents what happens when obedience breathes life into what once lay dormant. When you type 888, you're not just posting digits, you're prophesying over your destiny. You're saying, I choose to walk in divine order. I choose to live under heaven's seal. Let those numbers be your amen. Your quiet yes, your symbol of surrender and strength. For obedience is not the end of freedom, it is the beginning of authority. You have been sealed, marked, and chosen. Now let the world see the difference heaven's seal makes. When you type 888, heaven witnesses your obedience. It's more than a number, it's your covenant. You're declaring, I'm done resisting. I choose the will that leads to life. Each 888 written is a heartbeat of surrender echoing in eternity. It means your spirit has aligned with divine rhythm. You no longer chase signs, you've become one. There is a war that no one else can see, and yet you feel it with every breath. It is not fought with weapons nor with words, it is waged within your chest. It is the quiet, constant tension between the call of your spirit and the pull of your flesh. This is where heaven and hell both watch in silence. For every thought, every emotion, every hesitation becomes a soldier on one side or the other. You wake some mornings feeling a heaviness that has no name. It's not sadness exactly, it's spiritual resistance. The enemy does not always strike with tragedy. Sometimes he simply whispers doubt. He tells you you're tired, unworthy, or unseen. He makes you question the very progress you've made. And yet, within that same moment, another voice rises, the still, firm whisper that says, keep going. You're closer than you think. This is the war inside your chest, a battle for peace in the place where fear once ruled. You are learning to recognize the difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction draws you closer to God. Condemnation drives you away. One heals, the other hides. The enemy wants to weaponize your emotions, but heaven wants to use them as indicators, signals pointing to what needs healing, not punishment. You are not weak because you still feel the battle. You are strong because you keep choosing light when darkness would be easier. Every time you silence the thought that says, I can't, heaven records it as a victory. Every time you forgive instead of fight, pray instead of panic, bless instead of curse, you strike a blow against the kingdom of shadows. This inner war is sacred because it is proof that your heart still beats for righteousness. The numb feel nothing, but you still care. You still wrestle. You still seek truth when lies surround you. That chosen one is the evidence that the Spirit lives within you. There are days when your emotions rise like storms, anger, doubt, loneliness, fatigue, and you wonder if you've lost your strength. But even storms obey the same God who commands the seas. Your emotions are waves. They crash, they roar, but they cannot drown the one anchored in faith. Feel them, acknowledge them, but do not build your home within them. Remember that even Christ wept, sweated blood in Gethsemane, and cried out on the cross. He felt the weight of his own inner war between agony and obedience, yet he chose surrender. If the Son of God himself wrestled in the garden, why should you be ashamed of your own battle? The struggle does not mean you failed, it means you're following His path more closely than you realize. In those moments of spiritual exhaustion, when you can't even find words to pray, heaven still hears the language of your endurance. Your sighs are prayers, your silence is worship. The tears you hide are seen, and each one testifies that even wounded, you have not turned away. The Apostle Paul spoke of this invisible conflict in his letter to the Galatians, chapter 5, verse 17. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. Those words echo through time, describing every chosen heart that dares to live holy in an unholy world. This war will not end until glory comes, but with each battle you win, the enemy loses ground in your soul. You may stumble, you may feel weary, but you have already been armed with grace. Understand this peace is not the absence of battle. It is the ability to stand calm in the midst of it. You are learning not to escape the storm, but to rule within it. The Spirit is teaching you to breathe in chaos, to worship through uncertainty, to speak life into shadows that once terrified you. There will come a day when what now feels like war will feel like rhythm. You will still feel the tension, but it will no longer control you. The fire that once burned you will instead burn through you, refining, purifying, sanctifying. You will walk with authority because you will have learned to master yourself, the hardest territory to conquer. And when that day comes, your presence alone will disrupt darkness. People will feel peace around you and not know why. It will be because you carry the sound of victory, the quiet strength of one who fought and did not faint. Your life will become a living sermon, proof that peace is possible, that surrender is strength, that the Spirit wins even when the soul trembles. So breathe deeply. Chosen one. The war inside your chest is not your downfall, it is your divine training ground. Every wound you've endured has made your discernment sharper. Every fear you've faced has turned into armor. You are not losing your mind. You are finding your mastery. Keep standing. Keep believing. Keep letting the Spirit lead. For every heartbeat that chooses heaven over habit sends a ripple of light into eternity. And when your heart feels weary again, remember, even in war, grace holds the line. You've fought the war inside your chest long enough to recognize its patterns. The battle was never just external, it has always been about sight. The enemy's oldest weapon has never been violence. It has always been deception. And not every deception comes with horns, and darkness somewhere smiles. Carry good intentions and speak the language of light. There is a reason discernment is called a gift. It is not something you learn from books or sermons alone. It is something carved into you by experience, by heartbreak, by the slow realization that not everyone who touches you carries healing hands. Some speak your language but serve another master. Some stand near altars yet worship their own reflection. Chosen one, the time has come for you to see beyond appearances. Heaven is sharpening your vision, not just your eyes, but your spirit. You are being taught to discern the true from the false, the authentic from the imitation. This is not to make you fearful, but wise. For not all that glitters is divine, and not every door opened before you was opened by God. Discernment is the filter of the faithful. It separates voices that edify from voices that enslave. It teaches you to pause before you believe, to weigh every spirit, every influence, every smile that crosses your path. The world tells you to trust your feelings. Heaven tells you to test them. Emotions can be manipulated, but peace cannot be faked. When God speaks, even correction carries calm. When the counterfeit speaks, confusion follows close behind. There were people you thought were allies. People who said God told me, but whose actions drained your spirit. That wasn't your failure, it was your awakening. You were not wrong to love them. But now you must learn to guard what is sacred. Every chosen soul must eventually learn that not everyone who stands beside you is assigned to walk with you. You were called to be kind, not careless, compassionate, not blind. The Spirit of truth now trains your senses to recognize energy and motive. You will begin to feel heaviness where deceit lingers, restlessness where manipulation hides, and peace only where authenticity reigns. This is your spiritual maturity taking shape. The Son of God himself warned his followers with words that echo still, recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 15. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Those words are not meant to harden your heart, but to strengthen your discernment. For wolves are clever, they do not come snarling, they come smiling. They use kindness as a disguise, flattery as bait, and familiarity as chains. They know that deception wrapped in love is easier to swallow than truth wrapped in discipline. But you, chosen one, are no longer unaware. The Spirit within you will now begin to stir when something isn't right. You will sense when words sound holy but lack anointing, when counsel sounds wise but carries no peace. You will learn that some opportunities are actually distractions in disguise, meant to delay your destiny by keeping you busy with the good instead of the God-sent. Discernment is not judgment, it is protection. It is not arrogance, it is awareness. It allows you to love deeply while still setting boundaries, to forgive without re-entering toxic cycles, to see clearly without becoming cynical. You can walk in grace and still guard your peace. Do not feel guilty for stepping back from people who disturb your spirit. Sometimes, the distance you create is the only sermon they'll ever hear. When God begins to separate you from certain voices, do not chase them. He is protecting the purity of your assignment. And when confusion rises, pause. The counterfeit always rushes, the divine always confirms. The wrong voice pushes, the right one invites. Truth never manipulates, it liberates. That is how you'll know. You are entering a new level of spiritual perception where discernment will be your compass. It will save you from wrong partnerships, false mentors, and emotional traps disguised as destiny. You will begin to see clearly, not because the world changed, but because your eyes finally did. This clarity is your inheritance. It is heaven's way of keeping you safe while moving you forward. The gift of discernment will cost you comfort, but it will reward you with peace. It may isolate you for a time, but it will surround you with truth. You were once deceived, but now you discern. The same sensitivity that made you vulnerable will now make you powerful. You will walk into rooms and sense what others cannot. You will listen and hear what is unsaid. You will feel a nudge and know which way to turn. So fear not the unveiling. When masks fall, do not mourn what is revealed. Thank heaven for the clarity. What leaves you was never meant to remain. What stays will stand the test of truth. Chosen one, the masks of deception are falling. The truth is being revealed. Stand still, trust the whisper, and guard your spirit. For what God is building in you requires vision that cannot be fooled by imitation light. There comes a moment when silence is no longer enough, when what was hidden in the dark must finally be spoken. The Spirit begins to stir in your chest, urging you to release what you've carried in secret. This is that moment. Chosen one, the moment of confession. Not the kind born of shame, but the kind that breaks shackles. For as long as the truth stays buried, it binds you. But the instant you speak it, light floods in. The enemy has power only in silence. Once exposed, he becomes powerless. That is why heaven whispers, "Speak it out." You have carried words too heavy for your heart griefs unspoken, apologies withheld, fears you've tried to hide under strength. But God cannot heal what you refuse to reveal. Confession is not weakness, it is warfare. It is how you transfer the weight from your soul back into His hands. Remember, this heaven already knows, yet still invites you to speak. Not because God needs to hear it, but because you need to release it. The act of confessing is not for His awareness, it's for your freedom. You speak not to inform Him, but to unchain yourself. There are things you've avoided naming because naming them makes them real. Pain, betrayal, regret, guilt, they've sat in the corners of your soul too long. But now the light of God reaches into those hidden places and says, "No more shadows." As you open your heart, you will feel resistance. The enemy will whisper, "Don't say it. Keep it quiet. You've already moved on." But the Spirit will whisper louder, "Say it and be free." Confession is not about looking back, it's about clearing the way forward. The road ahead cannot carry both destiny and denial. You cannot rise while still chained to what you pretend doesn't hurt. You must name it, release it, and step into the light that truth provides. The Word of God assures us in the first letter of John, chapter 1, verse 9. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Those words are not condemnation, they are invitation. Heaven is not waiting to punish you, heaven is waiting to free you. The blood of Christ does not expose to shame, it exposes to redeem. Every word you release in truth becomes a key turning in the lock of your captivity. So let the confession begin, not for the world to hear, but for heaven to record. Whisper it in your room. Speak it in your car. Write it down if your voice trembles. Whatever it takes, let it leave your chest. You do not need to understand everything about your pain to surrender it. You just need to stop carrying it alone. The power of confession is not in perfection, but in honesty. And the moment you say, "Here it is, Lord," heaven replies, "I've been waiting." As you release these words, something shifts inside. You begin to feel lighter, not because the past disappears, but because grace steps in to carry what you no longer have to. You start to understand that freedom was never about forgetting. It was about forgiving yourself and everyone who once wounded you, and who, chosen one, this is sacred work. The enemy wants you silent because silence is agreement with bondage. But confession is rebellion against darkness. It is a declaration that says, "I am no longer owned by what hurt me." And when you finally speak truth, healing will follow like sunrise. The weight will lift, the fear will fade, and peace will settle where pain once lived. You will feel the presence of God not as distant judgment, but as gentle restoration. Now, if this message stirs something deep within you, if you feel the Holy Spirit prompting your heart to release, to breathe again, to open your mouth and let truth pour out, and then mark this moment publicly, type "I am free." That's it. 3 words that shake the spiritual realm. When you type "I am free," you're not just joining a comment thread, you're declaring liberty over your life. You're proclaiming that confession has done its work, and that grace has taken its throne in your heart. Those 3 words are not digital text. They are your spiritual declaration, your signature of surrender and renewal. Type them with intention, knowing heaven reads every syllable. For the chains you break with honesty will never bind you again. When you write "I am free," heaven witnesses your declaration. Those words become a roar in the spirit, silencing accusation. You are not who you were, you are who grace is shaping you to be. Each "I am free" is a banner lifted in unseen realm. You're saying the past no longer owns me. You're signing the papers of your own release, and heaven's light rushes to fill the space once darkened. Typing "I am free" is not performance, it's prophecy. It means you've agreed with truth, not trauma. You've stopped hiding and started healing. Freedom doesn't begin with movement, it begins with the courage to speak. The flames that once surrounded you have finally dimmed. And now, as the smoke clears, you begin to see something gleaming within the ashes. It's not ruin, it's reflection. What looked like destruction was actually revelation. For in the furnace, you were not consumed. You were refined. This is the mystery of the chosen ones. What breaks others builds you. What was meant to bury you instead revealed the gold that had been hidden under the surface all along. Every tear, every loss, every moment you thought would end you was a fire sent to forge you. The world saw you fall, but heaven saw you being formed. The fire was never against you, it was for you. You see, God doesn't use comfort to crown his children. He uses fire to fit them for eternity. When you walked through the heat, something sacred happened. Your impurities burned away, and your true nature began to shine. It was proclaimed in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9. I will refine them as silver is refined, and test them as gold is tested. Those words are not punishment, they are promise. They mean that fire is not your enemy, it's heaven's workshop. The greater the purpose, the hotter the refining. You were not being reduced, you were being revealed. Do you see it now? The moments that scorched you also sanctified you. The fire did not destroy your value, it exposed it. Like a sculptor chiseling stone, God allowed what hurt to reveal what was holy. He used pressure not to crush you, but to perfect you. You are the crown hidden in fire, the evidence that endurance has eternal reward. The glow you carry now is not artificial, it's born of survival. People will see you shine and not realize what it cost you to gleam this way. And as you rise from the ashes, heaven whispers, now, let others see the light that came from your pain, because light unshared fades, but light given multiplies. If this message touches you, let it travel. Tap the heart, it's like adding another log to the fire. Share this message, it's how the flame leaps from one soul to another. Every small gesture becomes a spark that keeps hope alive for someone still walking through their furnace. Subscribe if you haven't yet, not out of habit, but as a way of staying connected to the warmth that faith ignites. Every new word that reaches you will be another coal of comfort, another reminder that you're not the only one walking through the heat. And now, let's speak softly about something sacred, the act of giving. Many hesitate when they hear that word because the world has abused it. But in the kingdom, giving is not taking from you. It's releasing through you. It's like breathing, you exhale so that others can inhale. To donate is to add oil to the flame, ensuring that the fire never goes out. Your gift, no matter how small, is the continuation of light. It says, I believe this message should keep reaching hearts that still sit in darkness. You're not paying for words, you're sustaining the warmth that once found you when you were cold. Think of it like planting a tree. You may not sit in its shade, but generations after you will. Each act of generosity grows unseen roots that bear fruit for others. It's not duty, it's beauty. It's what happens when love overflows and decides to become action. If your heart feels the nudge, let giving be your thank you note to heaven. Let it flow naturally, like water finding the lowest ground. There's no pressure, no demand, only invitation. You don't owe the light anything, but if you choose, you can help it burn brighter. When you sow into light, heaven multiplies what remains in your hands. You'll find that what you gave away returns as peace, as answered prayer, as unexpected favor. For what leaves your palm never leaves your life, it simply changes form. Remember, chosen one, the fire that refined you has also made you radiant. Your story, your faith, your generosity, all of it is now part of the same flame. When you give, when you share, when you speak, each action becomes another way of saying, "The fire didn't end me, it awakened me." So stand in your glow without shame. Let others warm themselves by your testimony. Keep the flame alive, like share, subscribe. Give as your heart leads. Do it not from obligation, but from overflow. Because freely you received this light, and freely you now pass it on. You are proof that what once burned now blesses. And somewhere, someone still lost in the dark will one day see your light and find their way home. Each ember you share becomes a path for another soul. The warmth you release may be the only light someone sees tonight. Never underestimate how far one spark travels. When you give, you echo heaven's heartbeat. The flame that once healed you now heals others. Every act of love feeds eternity's fire, and eternity always remembers generosity. The moment has come. Chosen one, the hour of decision that heaven has prepared you for since the beginning. You stand between two masters, two voices, two thrones. One calls you with promise and pleasure, the other with purpose and peace. You can no longer live divided. The fire that refined you has made neutrality impossible. The time for indecision has ended. The world will always whisper, "You can have both." It will tell you that compromise is balance, that you can love the light while tasting the dark. But the spirit within you knows better. You have felt the weight of disobedience before, the ache of distance when you tried to walk with God while holding hands with the world. You remember how heavy your heart became when you wanted both blessing and rebellion. It cannot be so. There are only two masters. One enslaves you with illusion, promising freedom while binding your soul with invisible chains. The other sets you free by asking for everything: your comfort, your control, your plans, and returning purpose in exchange. The first offers pleasure without peace, the second surrender that leads to joy. Every moment of testing, every season of silence, every lesson in discernment has led to this defining line. The Spirit does not demand your perfection, only your allegiance. Heaven is not asking for performance but for partnership. God is not seeking servants who obey out of fear, but sons and daughters who obey out of love. The choice will not always look dramatic. It is not always made in grand gestures or public vows. Often, it's quiet, made in the hidden corners of thought, in the moment you decide forgiveness over vengeance, truth over comfort, humility over pride. These are the small crossroads that determine your master. You already know which voice speaks life. You've felt the counterfeit enough to recognize its emptiness. You've chased the world's promises before and found them hollow. The laughter faded, the thrill dissolved, and you were left with a hunger that only heaven could fill. Now the call comes again, not to entertain two loyalties, but to choose one kingdom. The word of Christ still stands, written in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters. These are not words of restriction, but of rescue. To serve two masters is to live in torment, pulled apart by opposing loyalties. But to choose one is to finally breathe. Peace does not come from having many options. It comes from having one clear devotion. The Spirit of God is gentle, never forceful. He does not drag your soul, he invites it. He waits patiently, even when you wander. Yet the time comes when the waiting must end. when decision becomes destiny. That time is now. Look back on the path behind you, the wilderness, the battles, the tears, the refining. None of it was wasted. Every test prepared your will. Every scar strengthened your resolve. Every delay was heaven's mercy, giving you time to see clearly before the final choice. And now you know what stands before you. The master of darkness offers temporary control but eternal emptiness. The master of light offers surrender that leads to everlasting glory. One takes everything and leaves you with nothing. The other asks for everything and gives you more than you could ever imagine. Do not fear the cost. Every yes to God costs something lesser. Every act of obedience feels like loss until you see what grows from it. Abraham left his land, but gained a nation. Peter dropped his net, but gained a kingdom. You, too, must lay down something in order to rise. The call is not to perfection, but to priority, to decide who sits on the throne of your heart. This choice cannot be postponed, because delay itself is a silent answer. The one who waits indefinitely has already chosen the comfort of compromise. So take this moment seriously, but not fearfully. The master you choose will shape the rest of your journey, not because he controls you, but because he empowers what you align with. Darkness breeds confusion. Light births clarity. One demands disguise. The other invites authenticity. You have heard both voices before, and deep within you already know which one is truth. The light has never lied to you. The darkness always has. Today, you are being asked not just to believe in God, but to belong to Him. Chosen one, this is the holy hour, the turning point of destiny. Heaven leans close. The angels hold their breath. Creation itself watches as you lift your head and decide whose reflection your life will carry. The world offers its crowns. Heaven offers its cross. Only one leads to glory. 2. Whisper your answer in faith, and the heavens will hear. For once you choose your master, everything else begins to fall into divine order. And when your choice is made, all creation will recognize it. The wind will carry your name differently. Even the unseen realms will know you have chosen light, and heaven stands behind you. There is a moment after the choice is made when silence feels sacred again. It's not the silence of confusion anymore, it's the silence of recognition. Heaven has heard you. Your spirit has declared its allegiance. And now the voice that once felt distant begins to speak to you personally, tenderly, by name. For the God you serve is not a faraway ruler counting your mistakes. He is a Father who calls you by name, one who delights in every whisper of your obedience. His voice does not thunder to terrify, it calls to identify. And now, that voice begins to echo within your heart. You hear it not as a command, but as comfort. It says, I've seen you, I've known you, I've never left you. The same God who measured the stars also numbered your steps. The same hand that shaped mountains once reached down and lifted you from despair. He doesn't just know your name, he cherishes it. When heaven speaks your name, it doesn't sound like how others say it. It carries weight, memory, purpose. It's filled with every prayer you've whispered, every tear you've sown. And when he calls you, it's not to remind you of your failures, but to reawaken your future. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. Those words are a vow sealed by eternity. They mean that no mistake can erase your belonging. No distance can undo your redemption. You are known not in theory, but in detail. You are not just one among many. You are a story that heaven refuses to forget. Chosen one. There is peace in knowing that the Creator doesn't just love humanity in general. He loves you specifically. When He calls your name, He's not reciting a list. He's summoning purpose. His call is not for attendance, it's for assignment. You have spent seasons feeling unseen, but now the one who knit you together in the womb whispers, "I never lost sight of you." The wilderness didn't erase your identity, it revealed it. The waiting didn't silence your destiny, it matured it. Now, as you stand in this holy awareness, you begin to realize that intimacy with God was always the goal. Miracles, blessings, influence, they are all beautiful, but they are not the reward. He is. The voice that knows your name is the treasure you were searching for all along. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. His tone carries warmth, not warning. His words bring direction, not dread. Every time He speaks, confusion loses ground. His voice restores the courage that fear once stole. It lifts your head when shame tries to lower it. There is no sweeter sound in all creation than the voice of God calling His child home. When He says your name, He isn't just identifying you. He's claiming you. You belong, not because you performed, but because you responded. And now, the same God who called Moses from a burning bush and Samuel from his sleep calls you not to a task alone, but to a relationship. You are not an employee in His kingdom. You are an heir in His family. So when He calls, answer. When He whispers, listen. And when He speaks your name in love, believe it. For His voice is not bound by failure or distance. It finds you wherever you are and calls you closer. If your heart feels the warmth of that truth, if you sense that divine familiarity as though heaven itself just said your name, then mark this sacred recognition below. Type 9999. Why 9999? Because it represents divine fulfillment, the completion of one cycle and the dawn of a new one. When you type it, you're not just entering numbers, you're declaring, "I hear you, Lord, and I know you hear me." Those 4 nines become your response to the voice that never stopped calling. They are your echo to heaven's whisper, your agreement with divine identity. You're saying, "I am seen, I am known, I am yours." Let those numbers be your signature of belonging, your digital amen. For the voice that calls you by name is also the one that writes your story, and this is only the beginning. When you type 99999, heaven leans close. You are not just pressing keys, you are answering a call. Those numbers become a language the angels understand, a declaration that says, "I recognize the voice that knows me." Each 99999 written is a bridge between realms. It tells the Father, "I've heard you, and I'm stepping into what you've spoken." It's not superstition, it's symbolism. You are acknowledging that the cycle of wandering has ended, and the season of walking in purpose has begun. Writing 99999 is your covenant moment. It seals what the Spirit has whispered. You are seen, you are known, you are claimed. As you release it, heaven echoes back, "Yes, and you are mine forever." Something powerful begins to stir the moment you answer that call. When you finally acknowledge that you belong to the Master of Light, something dormant inside you awakens authority. It is not loud, yet it cannot be ignored. It doesn't come from pride or performance, but from identity. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead now breathes through your words, your steps, your prayers. You begin to sense that heaven no longer simply protects you, it partners with you. Authority is not arrogance. It is divine permission, the right to act on behalf of the kingdom. When you speak in alignment with heaven, creation itself listens. Mountains of resistance tremble, not because of who you are in yourself, but because of the power that operates through your obedience. This is the mystery of the chosen. Once surrendered, you are no longer fragile. You are formidable. The world once saw your kindness as weakness, but heaven now reveals it as strength under control. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer fight to prove yourself. You stand to represent something higher. This is what happens when authority returns. It replaces striving with certainty. There were times when you prayed small prayers, hoping not to ask too much, afraid of disappointment. But now your prayers carry weight, not because your voice grew louder, but because your heart aligned deeper. Heaven does not respond to volume, it responds to agreement. And you, chosen one, are now in agreement with divine will. It was written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19. Behold, I have given you authority to trample on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy. Those words are not metaphor, they are mandate. They mean that what once frightened you now fears you. Darkness recognizes you not as prey, but as proof of power. The same battles that used to break you now back away at your presence. You carry light, and light does not negotiate with shadows, it commands them to flee. But understand, this true authority is not shown through domination, it is demonstrated through peace. When others panic, you remain still. When confusion rises, you bring clarity. When fear shouts, your faith whispers louder. That calm is your crown. It's the sign that you no longer fight for victory, you fight from victory. This restoration of authority changes how you see everything. You no longer measure yourself by external results, but by internal alignment. You don't beg heaven to move, you partner with it. You speak not as a victim asking for mercy, but as an heir declaring inheritance. Every time you pray for someone else, you release ripples in the unseen. Every word of blessing carries creative power. When you forgive, chains break in places you'll never see. When you intercede, storms begin to calm for people you may never meet. This is the weight of divine representation. You are now an instrument through which heaven acts. You begin to realize that miracles are not random events. They are natural responses to divine authority. Healing, deliverance, restoration, they follow authority like shadows follow light. The more you align with the will of God, the more your surroundings begin to reflect heaven's order. But authority is also responsibility. It demands purity of motive, humility of heart. It's not a weapon to impress others, it's a mantle to serve them. The greater your authority, the deeper your compassion must grow. True power bends low, washing feet rather than seeking thrones. Chosen one. Your return of authority means the days of self-doubt are over. Heaven has validated what you carry. The oil on your life is real. The fire in your words is genuine. You do not need to convince anyone, you need only to continue walking as evidence of grace. And when the storms rise again, and they will, you will stand differently. You won't pray from panic, but from position. You'll remember that authority doesn't mean the absence of battle, it means the certainty of victory. The winds will still howl, but you will not shake, because the one who commands the sea now commands through you. So lift your head, not in pride, but in purpose. The return of authority is the restoration of your voice. Heaven trusts you again with the keys of decree, the language of power, and the calm of dominion. You have moved from surviving to governing, from hoping to knowing. This is who you were meant to be, not merely saved, but sent, not merely defended, but deployed. You carry the authority of the redeemed, and the gates of darkness can no longer prevail against you. Your authority is not noise, it's presence. When you walk into a room, peace arrives first. The atmosphere bends not to your will, but to the one who reigns through you. You carry heaven's calm as your crown. Every prayer you whisper now plants roots in eternity. Each act of kindness releases invisible power. You're not seeking signs anymore, you've become one. The world won't just hear your faith, it will feel your authority. When authority returns, shadows begin to tremble. But with it comes a truth you must face. The brighter the light, the more clearly the darkness reveals itself. This is the reckoning. Chosen one, the unveiling of what was hidden in secret. The moment when truth and illusion part ways. It is not punishment, it is purification. Heaven's justice moves gently but unmistakably, setting every imbalance right. You will begin to see people, places, and situations through a different lens. What once seemed harmless will suddenly feel heavy. What once appeared stable will start to shake. Don't mistake this for loss, it is exposure. The Spirit is revealing where deception has disguised itself in your life. Some of those who smiled with you were whispering against you. Some who walked beside you were praying for your failure. But the light exposes all things. It can be painful to see, but this clarity is mercy. Heaven is protecting your next chapter by removing what can't survive your elevation. Every hidden intention will surface. Every lie will lose its power. The same God who defended you in silence will now defend you in public. Justice may take time, but it is never denied. You have felt the weight of betrayal before, the sting of misplaced trust, the ache of wondering why good hearts suffer at the hands of deceit. But now you understand the pain was never wasted. It was training for discernment. You know now that not everyone who celebrates you is for you, and not every silence is peace. Still, you do not curse what was revealed, you bless it, for it taught you to see. The book of Luke, chapter 8, verse 17 declares, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light." Those words are not a threat, they are a promise. They assure you that no falsehood can stand forever. The masks must fall, because truth has come to claim its place. The same fire that purified you will now purify what surrounds you. When light begins to expose, you may feel torn between relief and grief. Some of what falls away will be people you once loved, dreams you once held, identities you once wore. But remember, the shaking is not to destroy, it's to realign. What is real will remain. What is false will fade. The foundation of your life must match the faith you now carry. The reckoning is not vengeance. It is vindication. You don't have to defend yourself anymore. The truth will do it for you. God does not forget integrity, and He never ignores injustice. The same hand that wrote mercy into your story is now writing correction into your surroundings. This is also the hour when those who mocked your silence will watch your vindication. They will see that your stillness was not weakness. It was wisdom. You were not ignoring the battle. You were waiting for divine timing. And now, heaven moves on your behalf. Yet even as justice unfolds, keep your heart soft. The light that exposes others will also examine you. Let it, allow it to refine what still needs healing. This is how you stay pure amid exposure, by remaining humble when vindicated. Chosen one, your role in this reckoning is not revenge, it is revelation. You are not here to point fingers, but to stand as proof that light always wins. When truth rises, it doesn't need noise, it needs witnesses. You are that witness. You are the living evidence that patience in pain produces power and purpose. As God brings closure, you will feel the atmosphere shift. Conversations that once drained you will fall silent. Places that once welcomed you will no longer feel familiar. Let them go. Not everything can travel where truth reigns. The more light you carry, the less you fit into shadows. There will be moments when you miss what was, people, seasons, comfort. That's human. But don't confuse nostalgia with calling. The past had its purpose. The present has its promise. The light is moving, and you must move with it. The reckoning of shadows is not an end, it's a renewal. Everything that leaves makes room for what's pure. Everything exposed becomes soil for growth. The same justice that reveals also restores. When the dust settles, you will see clearly what stood was meant to stay, what fell was meant to free you. And in that clarity, you will find peace again. A quiet, deep peace that no accusation can disturb. You will stand among the ruins of deception and realize they are no longer ruins, they are testimonies. Proof that truth still triumphs, that integrity still matters, that God still governs the unseen. So do not fear the light. Welcome it. Let it search, reveal, and rebuild. For the God who exposes darkness also covers his children with grace. And when the reckoning is complete, your life will not just shine, it will testify. Now that the light has done its work and the shadows have scattered, a quiet wind begins to move through your life. You feel it, the shift from survival to purpose. You are no longer the one merely standing. You are the one being sent. Heaven is commissioning you now. Chosen one. Not as the wounded, but as the weapon. Not as the broken, but as the bearer of light. Everything you have endured has become oil in your lamp. Every tear that once fell in pain has turned to anointing. The voice that once trembled now carries authority. The hands that once shook in fear now hold healing. You have been transformed from a survivor into a messenger. The fire that once refined you is now the flame you carry to ignite others. This is what it means to be chosen, not to be worshipped, but to be willing. To walk into the darkness and bring light. To step into the ruins and plant hope. To see chains and refuse to leave them unbroken. You are the answer to prayers you never heard. The sign that heaven still sends helpers wrapped in humanity. It was spoken by the Savior himself in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 19. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations. That is not just a command, it is a calling. It means your life is no longer your own, it's a river meant to flow, not a reservoir meant to contain. The grace that reached you is now meant to reach through you. So go not with fear, but with fire. Let your words carry warmth. Let your kindness become a key. Let your story become a lantern in someone else's night. You do not need to be perfect to help. You only need to be present. Heaven does the rest. And as you go, remember light shared is never lost. The more you pour out, the brighter you become. Every testimony spoken, every act of compassion, every moment of faith spreads the fire farther. If this message has touched something inside you, then let that flame move. Tap the heart not as routine, but as a silent amen. Each like becomes a flicker of faith, joining countless others. Share this message like you're passing a candle down a long, dark corridor, letting the light travel where you cannot go. Subscribe if you haven't. Not as duty, but as connection. Think of it as keeping a window open, so the next breath of divine wind can reach you again. Each word you receive strengthens your wings for the flight ahead, and in the stillness after you listen, leave your footprint of light. Write one word in the comments, something that burns inside you right now. Shine. That single word is not for visibility. It's for visibility of faith. It's your silent promise to keep the flame alive wherever you walk. And now, let's speak softly about giving, about the sacred art of generosity. To give is not to lose, it's to let your light spill over the edges of your own cup. When you sow into light, you're adding oil to the flame, ensuring it never flickers out in someone else's night. You are not funding a voice, you are fueling a mission. You are joining the divine work of illumination. Think of it like a lighthouse, steady, unwavering, glowing even when storms rage. Someone, somewhere, will find direction because of the light you helped sustain. Whether your gift is large or small, it carries weight. It says, I believe this light should keep burning. Give, if your heart feels the warmth to do so, not out of pressure, but out of peace. It's not a transaction. It's a translation of gratitude. You're turning your thankfulness into guidance for another soul still searching for their way home. And as you pour out, heaven promises to pour back in ways unseen. Joy will find you when you least expect it. Provision will appear like morning dew. Because light given never leaves you empty, it multiplies, finding its way back as blessing. Chosen one, this is your commission: carry the fire and share the warmth. Every act of faith, every act of giving, every moment of love is a spark that spreads farther than you will ever know. Somewhere, a heart will beat lighter because of your obedience. Keep the flame alive. Let your voice echo light. Let your generosity become poetry. Let every click, comment, or seed you plant be your way of saying, the fire that found me will not die with me. And as you walk forward, heaven will walk with you, filling your lamp, guiding your steps, and using your story to light the path for multitudes yet unseen. Every ember you pass forward becomes a heartbeat in eternity. Somewhere, a weary soul will feel your warmth and remember that hope still breathes. Your flame is no longer yours alone. The more you give, the more the universe glows. Each act of light ripples beyond your sight, touching faces you'll never meet, proving that generosity is the quiet language of heaven. The fire has settled now. It no longer roars, it glows. Its warmth is steady, constant, sacred. What once burned in pain now burns in purpose. You have walked through trial, silence, discernment, confession, and choice. You have carried light through the darkness, and now heaven offers something deeper, a covenant. Not one written in ink or carved in stone, but etched into the essence of who you are. This covenant is not made with words alone. It is sealed in transformation. It is the unspoken vow between the Creator and the created, between the flame and the one who carries it. Heaven calls it the covenant of fire. It is the promise that the same power that once refined you will now remain within you, guiding, guarding, and growing the divine purpose entrusted to your life. A covenant is not a contract. It cannot be broken by circumstance or time. It is a binding of hearts, a joining of wills, a holy exchange. In your covenant, God gives himself entirely, and in return, you give him your yes. That simple, quiet yes has been your offering all along. Every tear, every act of faith, every surrender was your signature in fire. This is the sacred mystery that God doesn't just dwell above you, but within you. His spirit becomes the living flame at your core, and where his flame dwells, fear cannot, doubt cannot, darkness cannot. You are no longer sustained by willpower, but by divine firepower. It was written in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 29, "Our God is a consuming fire." Those words are both awe and assurance. The fire of God consumes not to destroy, but to purify. It burns away what is false so that only truth remains. When that fire lives in you, you no longer fear loss, for nothing truly yours can burn away. Only what was never meant to stay will turn to ash. The covenant of fire means that every part of your being, your thoughts, Desires, dreams are now aligned with divine purpose. You are not your old self dressed in faith. You are a new creation shaped by flame. You will think differently, speak differently, and move differently because heaven's heat has altered your very nature. There will still be storms, but they will no longer unmake you. There will still be tests, but they will no longer terrify you. You will carry the calm confidence of one who knows that even in flames you are never alone. Fire does not consume what is already made of light. Chosen one, you are now a living altar. Your life itself has become a place where heaven and earth meet. Every breath is incense, every word a spark, every act a continuation of the covenant. The presence of God will follow you not because you chase it, but because you host it. You will begin to notice that your spirit hungers less for validation and more for communion. The things that once pulled you away from peace will lose their power. You'll find yourself craving stillness, not noise, truth, not attention, substance, not spectacle. That's how you'll know the covenant is real. Your appetite has changed. Fire has no interest in applause. It exists only to illuminate and transform. And so do you. Your life will begin to light paths for others, not by force, but by simple being. People will feel something when you enter the room, the peace of presence, the quiet of purpose. That is the covenant at work, heaven speaking through you without words. But this covenant is also a responsibility. Fire cannot be careless, Mutz. It must be tended. Prayer will become your oxygen, integrity, your boundary, humility, your fuel. The moment pride tries to rise, the fire will remind you who you are, an instrument, not the source. The more you walk in this covenant, the more your life will feel weightless yet powerful. Burdens that once seemed unbearable will burn away as faith takes root deeper. You will understand that surrender was never loss, it was alignment. This covenant will not fade with time, it will grow stronger. Seasons will change, people will come and go, but the flame will remain. Even in silence, it will hum within you a steady warmth that says, "You are mine, and I am with you." Chosen one, you are no longer a wanderer searching for meaning. You are a bearer of sacred fire, a living vessel of divine covenant. The same God who called you through trial now walks with you in triumph. His presence has become your home. So let the fire rest. Let it glow. Let it guide. You have entered a promise that will outlast your breath. The covenant of fire is not about what you do, it's about who you've become. And who you are now will burn bright forever. Even when your voice falls silent, the covenant will still speak. It will shimmer in your actions, whisper through your compassion, and blaze quietly in your endurance. You are eternity's flame, alive and unextinguished. There comes a moment, chosen one, when the fire within and the light around you become one. No longer do you chase signs from heaven. You have become one. The journey of testing, silence, discernment, obedience, and covenant has brought you here to a sacred stillness where everything makes sense without needing explanation. You no longer ask, "Why me?" but instead whisper, "Thank you." You have learned that being chosen was never about superiority. It was always about surrender. God didn't select you because you were the loudest, the strongest, or the most worthy. He chose you because you were willing. Willing to break, to bend, to believe again when logic said quit. Willing to keep walking when every road ended in fog. The ones heaven uses are never the ones the world applauds. They are the ones who stay when others scatter. Every step, every scar, every silence was shaping something unshakable inside you. You have learned that faith is not found in noise, but in knowing. You now move differently, not rushing, not striving, simply flowing in rhythm with grace. There is a steadiness in you now, the calm that comes from surviving the furnace and finding God waiting in the fire. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 66, verse 12. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance. Those words are no longer a story, you are their living proof. The fire refined you, the water cleansed you, and now abundance surrounds you, not the kind measured by possessions, but by peace. You have become rich in clarity, wealthy in wisdom, overflowing in purpose. This abundance is not about more, it's about meaning. It is the quiet understanding that you already have everything that truly matters. You carry peace like armor, love like breath, faith like gravity. The world no longer pulls you apart because heaven now holds you together. You have become what time and trial were trying to teach you, a vessel of stillness. Not the stillness of inactivity, but the stillness of awareness. You no longer chase validation because you understand you were never meant to compete with the noise. You were meant to calm it. There is something about this season that feels like sunrise. The long night of confusion has ended, and the sky begins to glow with quiet assurance. You realize that the same God who tested you never intended to break you. He was revealing himself in fragments, piece by piece, until your heart could finally hold the full picture of his goodness. Now, when storms rise, you don't panic, you pray. When delays come, you don't despair, you discern. When blessings flow, you don't boast, you bow. This is maturity, the fruit of fire and faith. You are no longer ruled by emotion but led by revelation. And as you walk, heaven walks with you. The earth beneath your feet feels familiar yet new, as though creation itself recognizes who you've become. You sense it, the air responds differently. Your prayers travel farther. Your peace carries weight. You are not chasing miracles anymore, you are walking in them. This is the fulfillment of everything you've endured, the merging of purpose and presence. You no longer serve God out of fear of loss, but from fullness of love. You understand now that he was never testing to expose your weakness. He was testing to prove your strength. You have learned the secret that saints and prophets carried before you when you stop fighting the process. The promise begins to unfold. When you release control, heaven takes command. What once felt like endings were doorways. What once looked like silence was strategy. Every unanswered prayer was protection in disguise. And now, as you stand at the end of this journey, you realize it was never about reaching a destination. The goal was always transformation. You were not walking towards something, you were being shaped into someone. Someone capable of carrying light without burning out. Someone able to love without losing yourself. Chosen one. The fire no longer burns you, it burns through you. You are a walking sanctuary, a voice of calm in chaos, a reflection of divine resilience. You are not the same person who began this path. You are the fulfillment of every unseen prayer whispered in your wilderness. Lift your gaze. The road ahead is open, wide, and illuminated, not by chance, but by covenant. You have graduated from testing into trust, from wandering into walking, from believing in miracles to becoming one. You are living proof that the chosen are not perfect, they are persistent. They fall but rise, they weep but worship, they bend but never break. You carry eternity in fragile form, yet nothing about you is ordinary. And as the heavens look upon you now, they do not see a servant still striving. They see a child standing tall, radiant with purpose, sealed in fire, and clothed in peace. The testing is complete. The choosing is fulfilled. The Master has his vessel, and the light has found its home. And now, beloved chosen one, The story rests in your hands. The fire has spoken, the journey has unfolded, and the echo of heaven still hums through your chest. You are no longer just the listener, you are the light bearer. This message was never meant to stop with you, it was meant to flow through you. If your heart feels it, let this flame travel. Tap the heart, it's your silent whisper to heaven that the fire still burns. Share this message like a lantern passed from soul to soul, so someone lost in the night might find their way home. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Think of it as keeping the window of your spirit open so fresh wind can keep refilling your lamp. Every new word that arrives will be oil for tomorrow's courage. Write a single word in the comments, light. Let that be your final vow to carry illumination wherever you walk. It's not for recognition. It's remembrance, a sign that the journey changed you, that you now choose to shine instead of hide. And if your heart overflows enough to give, do it not as duty, but as devotion. Your gift is a log placed upon the fire, a promise that this light will keep reaching those still searching. Every seed of generosity becomes a spark that never dies, circling back one day as warmth in your own cold night. You have heard, you have risen, you have become the evidence that faith still works, that love still wins, that heaven still speaks. Keep the flame alive, like share, speak, give, shine, because somewhere out there, another chosen one is waiting for the light that burns in you.